and it was very hard to find a job in the Netherlands. Having a different name, looking like me. Although I had lived for many years, I faced a lot of discrimination. I was thinking, so shocked by the comment. I was standing there like processing it, and I just had tears in my eyes, and I left the shop. And I was sick and tired of people constantly saying, oh, maybe Sri Lankan food is Indian. And I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Unless you leave the country and then you start seeing pictures of my food or something and be like, oh my God, I would love that rice bowl sambal. And that's why I said I'm not an influencer. I don't need free things. Because the moment you get free things, you also have to say, you have to lie about it, you know?
True.
Like sometimes I'm like, oh, this is the best chicken curry I had. And in my head, I'm like, no, this is not the best chicken curry. Every Sri Lankan should visit Jaffna at least once in their life. And Jaffna people should visit the south once in their life, period. We have a massive vegan food culture, but we don't advertise it enough. I really, really want to put Sri Lanka on the map. My tagline is promoting Sri Lankan food to the world. Dutch brought food from Indonesia to Sri Lanka, to Kerala to Sri Lanka, and the other way as well. So you do see similarities, but our coconut sambal, the way we make it, is very unique to us.
Yeah.
Eat your avocado toast in Europe, please. Don't come to Sri Lanka for avocado toast.
Hi, Shehana. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good too. Oh, not a problem. I'm very happy to have you. So, Shehana, since last year, you were all over my social media feeds making this delicious, mouth-watering Sri Lankan food. You made us drool. I was actually impressed on how you're carrying the roots, how you're trying to promote our authentic Sri Lankan food, and how you're traveling to different parts of Sri Lanka with your Dutch partner, I guess, yeah? So, I want to know all about this, but let's start from introducing yourself, shall we?
So, yes, I'm Shahana. Most people know me as Shey or Curry O'Clock. I was born in Colombo, raised in Gaul until I think I was 13. And then I moved back to Colombo. And when I was 22, I left Sri Lanka and I went to the Netherlands to study international business and management. That's a little bit about who I am. What I'm doing now, I actually studied marketing. So I have a marketing background in sustainability. I worked in sustainability after my graduation. But during COVID, I lost my job in marketing, and it was very hard to find a job in the Netherlands. Having a different name, looking like me. Although I had lived for many years, I faced a lot of discrimination. I was thinking, I love cooking. Back then, I had this page called Shey the Foodie, and I wanted to take it up, take it further. And I thought, let's do Curry O'Clock. The name resonated with me. Curry is not just Indian, and I wanted to promote Sri Lankan food. And I was sick and tired of people constantly saying, oh, maybe Sri Lankan food is Indian. And I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. So that's how I started Curry O'Clock during COVID, and I started doing online workshops. We had people from America joining the workshops, and it was a really nice way to get together during COVID and do something fun and promote Sri Lanka. Slowly but steadily, Curry O'Clock became what it is today. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. So let's rewind back a little bit. The first time you left Sri Lanka, you said for studies. How was your experience there? What were the cultural shocks, or what did you like about moving out? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So actually, I had two reasons: study, and I always wanted to study abroad. That was like a thing for me when I was little. I always thought, oh, that would be cool. I had magazines at school, and I would write down the names I want to study. And for me, it was always UK or some English-speaking country. But then I met my ex-boyfriend, boyfriend back then. He was from the Netherlands, and I thought, yeah, you know what? I can also go to Netherlands and study if they offer English studies. So I went there for him and to study and stay and live. So culture shock for me, I had a very traumatic childhood. So for me, I was at that time of my life, I just wanted to get out. I was just done with Sri Lanka. I was done with people. I was done with all my trauma. So I just wanted a new start, like a new chapter. So I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed being in a new country. I think it took me a couple of years to start to see the reality, because I lived in a honeymoon phase for a long time, because
Happens.
it was masking things that I didn't want to deal with back home and just wanted to be happy in a new country. It was really easy for me because I'm quite a chatterbox, and I am easy to make friends with. I met really cool friends at university, and I was doing really good. So it was really, and I was one of the older students because everyone else was just 16, and I think I was back then 22. So, and I had worked in Sri Lanka as well. So I had a lot of, like, I was very professional. So that was a big struggle for me to like deal with children, to say. But they kept me young. They kept me young. And I just loved being in a new country, learning a new language, being with people, and staying away from Sri Lanka as much as possible. So
The
that is an
toxicity, you
interesting
mean?
phase. Yes, of Sri Lanka, but I think everything that happened in Sri Lanka made Sri Lanka awful for me. It took me a couple of trips to come home to really fall in love with this country. And I realized like this is not Sri Lanka's fault. This is a few people who really ruined my life, and this had nothing to do with Sri Lanka. But when you're going through trauma, you need to heal to be able to accept things, right? I was not healed when I left the country. I was barely like starting off. So, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot being in a new country. I only saw the issues later.
Okay. And then when did you start realizing or missing Sri Lanka?
So I wasn't very, very attached to my family. So I never missed my family. I would talk to them. I mean, it's nothing to do with like I'm not a family person. It's just that I grew up separate to my family. I grew up with my aunt and my grandma. I didn't grow up with my parents. So I never had the bond with them. So I never miss them. I miss my friends, but thanks to WhatsApp and, social
Oh, yeah.
media, I really didn't feel like I was missing it. I did miss the food a lot. I was craving for it. Like time to time, so I started cooking at home. I think when I really, really started missing Sri Lanka was in 2019. I took my husband to Sri Lanka with me for the first time. Back then, he was my boyfriend, and it was his first trip to Sri Lanka. And I wanted it to be perfect. I had this whole thing planned in my head. It should go this way. And he's Dutch. He's from the Netherlands. So we were in Gaul. We were at a shop in Gaul, and I was speaking in English. I just wanted Robin to be comfortable. So I was speaking in English so that he understand the conversation of everything that I'm talking, not to be like, oh, I live in the Netherlands, I don't speak Sinhala. Not that attitude at all. But these guys in the shop in Gaul, they still exist. Huh? They were so nasty, man. They were talking bad about me in Sinhala, saying really bad things, saying,
Judging
yeah,
you, probably?
yeah, definitely, like saying like, oh yeah, now she's here with a white guy and pretending that she doesn't speak Sinhala. And I was so shocked by the comment. I was standing there like processing it, and I just had tears in my eyes, and I left the shop. And then I was telling my husband, like, I was telling Robin what happened. I said, these guys were awful. So then I went to another shop, and there were like some local aunties, and I said to my husband, like, I really have to speak Sinhala. I don't want people talking bad about me. I just don't want to deal with it now. And I went and spoke Sinhala, and well, the good thing is I was able to connect with the locals, but the bad thing for him was he wouldn't understand what I'm saying. But then I thought, yeah, this is the problem of marrying, from a different culture.
Oh my
This
God,
is one
yes.
of the so but these aunties were so wonderful, and I was buying some postcards from them. And in that moment, it just hit me. It's the same street in Gaul, but two different shops. how
Mm-hmm.
one person was me. I don't know if I'm allowed to say those words. I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
And another person were like the real good Sri Lankan people I love
Mm,
about what I love about Sri Lanka. And in that moment, I just thought, I'm never speaking English. I don't
mm.
care if my husband doesn't understand it. This is my country. I'm going to always connect with people. And they can't talk bad about me in front of me if I speak in Sinhala.
Mm,
But it changed something. It did something. It just like this good and the bad in front of me in like 5 minutes difference, that hit
mm,
me like this is not the people. It's just a few people ruining this country.
mm.
Um, so that changed something, and I ever since that, I don't know, I've loved Sri Lanka so much. I just fell in love with this country all over again, and I forgave my past. I forgave people who hurt me. I never forgot, but I've forgiven,
Mm.
and some of them still exist, and some of them will watch this video probably. But yeah, I just fell in love with this country, and yeah.
Yeah, impressive. Um, so, what about the availability of Sri Lankan food in the Netherlands? I'm curious.
Well, mostly it's me. No, I'm kidding. Well, we don't really have Sri Lankan, like authentic Sri Lankan food. I mean, when I say Sri Lankan food, it can be Tamil food, Sinhala food, it can be
Oh.
Malay food, anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have, mostly it's Indian food, and sometimes they call it Ceylon chicken curry, and then you eat it and you're like, ew, what is this? We don't have a proper Sri Lankan restaurant. People do call it maybe like people who left during the war, diaspora people have started some
Mm,
food, but it's more
mm,
South Indian type of Sri Lankan food or Tamil Sri Lankan food.
mm-hmm.
But not like Sinhala food, you can't find it in proper places. They also have kottu, but I'm never impressed with those things.
Yeah, it's never
So
good.
that's also why no, it's never good. So I have this vision one day to have a restaurant, but it's so
Mm,
expensive to do something like that in Europe, you know.
mm,
So and also I'm really confused what I want to do with my life. Do I want to be in the Netherlands, in Sri Lanka?
mm.
So it's a big dilemma, but yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that actually. But you did live for a year, you said, in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Shehani, again, I want to take you back to the life in Netherlands. Yeah. You said you faced discrimination, and I'm sure the people are not as open or chatty as us Sri Lankans.
No.
Uh, yeah, going from a toxic environment to such an environment, was it easy to make friends? How did you get a social life there, to say?
I think for me it was really easy because I was a student.
Uh-uh.
You anyway meet people at the university. So I had a lot of friends,
Mm-hmm.
mostly like study friends, and with some friends you connect and you spend time.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that difficult. I know if you come to the Netherlands just to work, it would be very difficult to make friends unless you are in an international setting,
Mm-hmm.
because then everyone is in the same situation. They've left their families to come and work. You're an expat.
Mm-hmm.
It is true. They're not very chatty. I mean, they're very open-minded. I think they're way more open-minded than Sri Lankans. I mean, in terms of open-mindedness, they were the first country to legalize gay marriage. In that
Mm-hmm.
way, they're very open-minded. But when it comes to focusing me, myself, and I, they're also very good at me, myself, and I instead of community feeling. This is generalizing pretty much, but I'm just talking about culture as a whole. Of course, there are exceptions. I live in an amazing place where we share food. It's like mini Sri Lanka with white people for me, you know. Um, but in general, indeed, like you would say hello and getting a hello back will be really hard in certain areas. But if you live
Mm,
in a village, people are a bit more friendlier. In a city, they
mhm,
just focus on themselves. And the Dutchies are known for not like they grew up, they went to school, they went to high school, they went to university, they have their friends from childhood. You have
mm,
friends. So getting into a Dutch friend circle is very hard. It's very hard unless you went to school with them or you went to uni with them. At work, sometimes work is work. You're just a colleague. You go home. That's it. You know, there are exceptions where you would go out for drinks. I had really great work colleagues who even gave me furniture when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend and had to move to a house. They gave me furniture. They came and helped me move. So it's not impossible. I also think there's a role for us to play. When you go to a new country, you need to learn the language. I think it's a given. Why would you go to a new country if you don't want to integrate? You can just stay home, right? Finance is not the only reason. In my perspective, we also have a role to play. So I learned the language, and then people see the effort you put in to also be friends with them, and they do recognize it. In that sense, I think Netherlands is a bit more easier country compared to Germany or France, where they're a bit more hardcore about the language. Dutch people speak more English, so they also are willing to give you a little bit of slack if you don't speak Dutch, you know. I really think it's where in Europe it is. But as Sri Lankans, we are way more like friendly. We are way more
Yeah.
chatty.
Yes. Um, so, Shehana, when did you start making food blogs? When you were in Netherlands itself, or after, like you said, the first time you came in 2019, was that when you were thinking like, okay, let me show off my food?
No, I think I started it actually in 2013 already. So when I moved to the Netherlands, I had to cook my own food, right? Even though in Sri Lanka, I also lived alone, which is very unusual for a Sri Lankan to do that before
Yes.
being married and blah, blah, blah. But I never cook really. I used to cook for my parents, and my parents would always be like, "Where the hell did you learn to cook?" And I'd be like, yeah, I'm living with a man secretly and I learned to cook. So I would lie about things like that. But I started cooking, I think, actually, I started taking pictures and posting something about it when I had my Instagram page back in 2013. I used to watch a lot of kitchen shows like Jamie Oliver to, I don't know, 24 Kitchen, and I would like test out a lot of things. And in Sri Lanka, I had a lot of expat friends from the Netherlands, and I would cook with them. I would teach them how to cook Sri Lankan food too. So this was actually 2011, I'm talking. So I always had this thing for like cooking, and my father is a really great cook. My stepmother is a really great cook. So it was in the system. But yeah, the blog started in 2013, but really making videos and stuff, I think maybe like 2020, 20. Yeah, I honestly don't know. I've been doing it for so long, maybe even 2018. I was a big health freak, going to the gym, and I'm still a health freak. But back then, I was like counting my calories. So I wanted to make sure my food is very healthy. So I would film all of that. Yeah.
What I think is there is not much focus on Sri Lankan food, or it's not famous, let's say. Do you see
Yeah.
any particular reason for that? I'm not just talking about Europe, also in the Middle East or anywhere we go. Indian food is highlighted, for example. Thai cuisine is highlighted. But Sri Lankan food being as good as those cuisines, not many people know about our food, you know. So why do you think
Yeah.
it's like this way?
It's a good question. I also saw something about it recently. I actually was thinking like, um, maybe there's a lot of Indian people living abroad, so there's a
Yeah.
demand for Indian food. You will cook and you will have guests coming and eating, you know? Like if you cater it towards, like if you make authentic Indian food, you would expect Indians to come and eat it, right? And there's a lot of Indians living abroad. Like if you look at UK, it's really one of the best Indian foods I've tried apart from India. So when it comes to Sri Lankan food, I think our community is also smaller, and it takes extra effort financially. So I have the feeling maybe Sri Lankans who live abroad either don't feel motivated or don't have the wealth. In my case, it's actually, I am super motivated, but I don't have the financial possibility to do a restaurant right now because it costs and I want to do it in a certain way. I don't want to do like a petty kade, you know. So, um, yeah, I just I have honestly have no proper answer. I'm just mumbling something.
No, in
Yeah,
my
and also
observation, if I can add to that, I feel like our people think that our food is, I mean, not worthy of this appreciation. Let's say, like, they would rather speak highly of going to KFC or McDonald's than having rice and curry. Do you know what I mean? They're not proud. I feel like Sri Lankans are not proud about our food or our cuisine in total. What do you think?
yeah. I can't, I don't agree. You know why? Because I have a lot of people who live abroad following me. I think my page is full of foreigners more than, not foreigners, Sri Lankans who live abroad. Okay.
Yes, yes. In this case,
Um,
yes. But I'm talking about the Sri Lankans who are in Sri Lanka, They always
Sri
romanticize the
Lankans,
things they don't have.
yeah, I think in that sense, yes, they'll be like, oh, rice and curry every day. There is that going on. But I
Mm.
also have like, I think I associate people who really love Sri Lankan food, like who can eat Sri Lankan food every day. I can eat Sri Lankan food every day.
Me too.
Honestly, I don't care for burger unless it's like a proper good spicy something with Sri Lanka burger.
Mm.
Um, I see what you mean. I know what you mean. I know these people from Colombo as well. People be like, when I ask people like, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? Pizza
Mm.
or wraps or something like that. I think it's because they eat it every day.
Mm.
They don't appreciate it. If you have something every day, you don't
Mm.
appreciate it. But it's very different compared to Italians, for example. They're
Oh, yes.
super proud of their food. They have
Yes.
pasta every day, probably, but they're super proud of their food, you know?
And they
I'm
want
sorry, it's
pasta
the
wherever
golden
they go.
hour. Yeah. And that's true. Like, if you see these, I have friends like Chinese aunties, they would take
Mm.
a mini rice cooker on travel, man, to cook rice. They're like hardcore. My parents would never. They'd be like, forget about the rice cooker. But
Mm.
if you go abroad, after a few days, they start missing Sri Lankan food. I know
Yes.
that
Then
from a
everything
lot of Sri
changes.
Lankan. I don't think it's a pride thing. I don't think they're
Mm.
not proud or anything like that. I think maybe it's because it's vastly available and you have it very often.
Mm.
They don't see the treasure in it, you know? Like,
Mm.
unless you leave the country and then you start seeing pictures of my food or something and be like, oh my God, I would love that rice, pol sambal and rice, you know, the pol sambal dal curry right now. I honestly can't say Sri Lankans are not proud of our food because I see that switching a lot more. For
Mm.
example, with these master chef things and how Sri Lankans are competing, bringing
True.
like Sri Lankan food is coming out of every side right now. It's
Yes.
like a hurricane. So
I know
I'm
it's
really
very hard
proud
to
and
scroll through social media these days.
yeah, so
Everything
I'm
is
very
showing me
proud.
the beauty of Sri Lanka or the either the food of Sri Lanka.
Yeah. So and I know why we are proud of our food. Recently, there was this travel blogger who
Mm-hmm.
said not to go to Sri Lanka, and he started talking Sri Lankan
Oh,
food being fried food, and he got it from Sri Lankan people.
yes, I
He
saw
was
that.
like, and I also made like a little video about it, like, oh yeah, I'm eating unhealthy rice and curry because this is all fried. The rice is fried, you know.
Mm.
So in that sense, you see how we are like, I think Sri Lankans are very proud people. Um, we come together in a moment like that. So that also showed me how proud we are of our cuisine. So
Mm.
yeah, I think there's deeper issues to why we don't have a lot of Sri Lankan restaurants abroad, probably
Mm.
financially, and also not having enough target audience. Maybe people are afraid if we make this will people come? But my experience from the beginning, I've been cooking Sri Lankan food for a lot of people in the Netherlands. For
Mm.
until now, zero people have said it's disgusting or I don't want to eat it. Like
Mm.
people who doesn't even eat, like people who doesn't want to eat spicy food will try it and they'll be like, wow, I
They
have
will
like my
fall in love with
youngest
it.
critic. Yeah, my youngest critic was less than a year old, and I made rice and curry for him when he was a baby. His mom was eating rice and curry, so I think his taste buds were like very rice and curry.
Mm,
And when I was feeding rice and curry to him, he would shake his legs, you know. He was so happy. He would never let anyone feed him, but he let me
mm.
feed him rice and curry, and he was just eating the whole plate. And for me, a Dutch kid who eats rice and curry is for me like my biggest critic,
It's
because
winning, yes,
Dutch
yeah.
ki Dutch kids don't eat rice and curry. Are you kidding me?
Mm,
No,
mm, 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 mm.
no.
Yeah, yeah. I have faced the same experience. Whenever I cook for my friends from other parts of the world, they fall in love with it, and sometimes they write down the recipe. The best one has
Yeah.
to be the pol sambal. You know, I think that's
Oh.
very unique to Sri Lanka. Only we have it.
Uh, whole sambal?
Yeah.
We do like our version of pol sambal is very unique to us, but the
Yes.
pol sambal can be seen in India too. They do have something
Mm.
similar.
No, but
Uh,
it's not raw coconut, is it? It's
no, they use
sautéed.
chutney.
No,
So
chutney
they
is not
have
raw coconut.
coconut. So pol sambal, we also
Yeah.
have a sautéed pol sambal, you know.
Yeah, I think from
So we
candy they
also
make
have
it.
it. I'm not sure if it is candy, but the reason why we saute the pol sambal is to keep it longer.
Yes,
Because
yes,
raw coconut, with the heat, it spoils faster.
yes.
So when you saute it, it stays longer.
Mm,
And in Indonesia, I've seen not a raw coconut, but they have
mm,
similar things going on. Because of colonialism, food was exchanged between the
yeah.
Dutch brought food from Indonesia to Sri Lanka, to Kerala to Sri Lanka, and the other way as well. So you
Mm,
do see similarities, but our coconut sambal, the way we make it, is very unique to us.
yeah, unique to us. I think the sambal word itself came from somewhere from Indonesia or from
Yeah,
that part of the world.
it is
Yes.
from Indonesia. Sambal is from
Mm,
Indonesia, yes.
yes. So, Shehana, I have seen that you are going to different places, meeting different people, and giving exposure to these amazing concepts like farm to food, farm to table. So, how do you find these people? And I think your motive behind this is to give them a shout out, you know. So, how do you find these people, and how can more people do this? Help them.
Mm, how I find these people, like, well, when it comes to farm to table, I actually I follow a lot of people on Instagram that is interesting to me,
Mm,
because I'm a sustainable person. I honestly
mm,
live my life in the most sustainable way possible, apart from flying to Sri Lanka and to the Netherlands.
mm.
That is the
That you
only
have to.
thing I can't do. I have
Mm,
to. So I've been like, I search for these kind of things that I'm passionate about. So because of that algorithm, I also get sometimes interesting accounts popping up, or sometimes people would tell me, "Hey, have you seen this? This is interesting." So
mm,
I do a lot of my own research, and most of these collaborations are not paid. I don't.
mm.
That's why I said I'm not an influencer. I don't need free things, because the
Right.
moment you get free things, you also have to say, you have to lie about it. You know,
True,
like sometimes
true.
I'm like, oh, this is the best chicken curry I had, and in my head I'm like, no, this is not the best chicken curry. I built Career Club based on credibility, so I'm
Mm,
very proud of it. I do collaborations. When I do collaborations, I also am very honest. I'm very picky with who I do collaborations. So just because
mm,
it's a collaboration doesn't mean it's paid. So
mm,
one of these initiatives are called the Indigenous Initiative. I love the word indigenous. So I was like, what is this? And turns out they grow vegetables according to our forefathers,
mm,
using the power of the moon. These are certain things I learned during, I think, Sinhala literature or history or one of those things.
mm,
And I was always like, I always look how to eat biological, organic, without pesticides. We are two people, so for us, we
mm,
don't need a lot of food, you know.
mm,
And I know it's not cheap, but in Sri Lanka, it is affordable for me.
mm,
It's just a different, price category for me. I think for locals, it could be expensive, but
mm,
I choose. to spend my money on that instead of going out and eating at KFC or a fancy handbag. I rather take care of my health. So I rather spend my money on organic food. So this is how I was doing a lot of research, and then I come across these kind of pages and I reach out to them and I say, hey, I'm this person. Can we talk about what you're doing? And then they suggest, why don't we also cook together, you know? And they're like, yeah, sure, why don't we cook together? So then I go and I dig about the concept. And I honestly, like, sometimes I I go in and I see, oh, this is great. Sometimes I go in and I also see issues. So then I don't want to share it. I don't want to post those videos and promote those people. Um, so I stay away from those things. Because I want to use my platform for the right things and to promote the correct people. So that's
True.
how I end up going to these kind of places, and I just love discovering authentic Sri Lankan vegetables that is unique to us, indigenous vegetables, indigenous farming, how to preserve our nature, protect our country in a more sustainable way using ancient techniques. I'm hardcore Sri Lankan in that way. So that's how I end up at these places, literally.
Nice, nice. Really, it's very impressive to see your videos because not many people know about this. Even Sri Lankans living in Sri Lanka don't know about this. So, Shiana, do you have a plan to list these people down or these places down so others can maybe think of visiting them, considering to give them a support?
I think I can do something. I mean, every video I share, it's public on my page, and I also like always put it on my story highlights. I haven't like made a list of places, but if people are interested, of course, I can do something like that. And some of these places do offer tours. Some of them are in working progress. So my plan also has been with the Indigenous initiative when they really kick off, they are open their farm to public. To also do another video with them where we explain what can people experience, you know. My plan is also in the future to work with them to do farm to table dinners when I'm in Sri Lanka, like using authentic ingredients. But I can definitely list them so others can visit them too.
Yeah, maybe someday on your website, Curry O'Clock website in the future.
Yeah, it's work in progress. There's a new website coming with loads of fun stuff, so I can't wait for that too.
Okay. So the other thing I noticed that recently you visited Jaffna. I have so many questions. Like, how did you find it? The different culture, different part of Sri Lanka, which is not so highlighted, for tourists mainly, and the difference in food and the methods. I think most of them are still cooking with firewood, aren't they?
Mm, mm. Yeah. So, which question do you want me to answer first? You asked a lot of
All of
questions.
them. You choose.
uh, the reason why I wanted to go to Jaffna, I wanted to go to Jaffna when I lived in Sri Lanka, but every time either it was too hot or it was too long, I was not motivated enough to like take that train ride, you know? I was like, oh, I can't. But I
How long
knew
is
I
it?
came with it. In general, it says 7 hours, but because of traffic, like signal issues, it took us about 9 hours. So it's exhausting,
Yeah.
but it's definitely worth it. If you can go to Jaffna, you should. Every Sri Lankan should visit Jaffna at least once in their life, and Jaffna people should visit the south once in their life. Period. You know.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
why I wanted to go was I grew up in the war in Colombo, so
Mm.
I've seen the war firsthand. I was studying for my A levels. It was hectic. You never know if we returned home. My parents never knew.
True.
I've missed bombs like 5 minutes. Like I go home and boom. I've seen smoke. I've seen blood. I've seen it all. But that is my side of the story. I wanted to know the side of the story from people who actually lived in the war. What do
Right.
they say? So I've been reading a lot of books about Civil War stories. I just wanted to be open minded because we lived in propaganda too. We listened to what
Yes.
the news said, right? That is
Yes.
all we knew. We listened to what our
Yes.
parents said. But there's always more truth to the story. So I was really, really curious about their story. And I also know my page is about connecting people through food and culture. So obviously, I wanted to cook Sri Lankan food from Jaffna, Tamil food. So I connected few people who arranged things for me. I must say I'm really blessed. I always meet amazing people. I'm very grateful for that. And it was the most amazing thing. I mean, to see how underdeveloped Jaffna is compared to
Yes,
rest of Sri Lanka.
sadly, yes.
How badly garbage is managed there, how polluted it is because there's no proper garbage management to roads. It breaks my heart because they've been neglected, and the war has
Yes.
been ended in 15 years and they still have been neglected, you know.
Mm.
um and people always, like, when I meet Jaffna people, they're like, yeah, like, some of us are just sick and tired, you know, waiting for something to happen, but
Mm.
nothing is happening because
Mm.
the politicians in Jaffna are also very corrupt. I'm talking about
Mm.
Tamil politicians.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no good happening for these people anyway, because,
Mm.
you know, the people who are supposed to represent them are also doing horrible things.
Yes.
um, but apart from the bad, the good was for me. I cooked in different setups. Like, I think I cooked with 4 different families,
Mm-hmm.
and I cooked multiple dishes and so on. And yes, most of them have wood. Wood. They use wood because there's a lot of wood, and
Mm.
I think they're just still not so wealthy, you know,
Mm.
to afford things. Some of the villages I visited are under the
Not so
poverty
wealthy,
line.
but more sustainable they are.
They are definitely more sustainable in certain ways, yes. And but they are happier in certain ways
Mm.
too, happier than
Mm.
Colombo people who are stressed out all the time. They can smile, their hospitality is incredible. I always
Mm.
thought Tamil people are one of the nicest people. Like, I
Mm.
always trust them. Coming from the south, I can say that, like, you know, I've seen the difference. Like, sometimes people can be very crooked and they have hidden agendas, and I don't know, I don't feel that with Tamil people. I just feel
Mm.
like you guys are genuinely good people, like, really. The hospitality has been amazing, even in the poorest house. How they took care of us was
Mm.
incredible. One thing I really appreciated about Jaffna is that they didn't, like, comment on my body or my color. That was a
Mm.
massive difference for me compared to the South, where
Mm.
people who you don't even know would say nasty stuff to you.
Mm.
So I appreciate that a lot. Like, I
Mm.
was like, oh, I'm happy to be here anyway because you guys are really nice.
Mm.
And for me, the food is very different. Like, I've tried Jaffna food in Colombo. I've had Jaffna friends cook for me. I just understood the basics. Like, their basics are so different. One of the basic thing is they don't use tuna paha. They don't use Sri Lankan raw
Mm.
curry powder. They use Jaffna curry powder. Jaffna curry
Okay.
powder is mostly red chilies. You know, the dried red chili. That's why the color is also more like red.
Mm.
And then there's coriander in it and the rest of the ingredients. So it's really a different curry powder,
Mm-hmm.
very fragrant because it's roasted.
Mm.
It's very different from our roasted curry powder too. So they use, when they say tool, like tool is powder, it's
Yeah.
they're talking about Jaffna curry powder.
Mm.
And they don't use chili powder in their food because the curry powder includes chili powder.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that was very interesting, and they use a lot of a
Mm.
lot of fennel in their food.
Mm-hmm.
Less cumin, but a lot of fennel.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, like curry leaves, pandan leaves, they use that. They use fenugreek as well. But for me, the most interesting thing was Jaffna curry powder, fennel, and cumin. Like, the amount of that is being used, and their dal is very different.
Yeah.
They use black pepper pods in their dal.
Mm.
You know, very interesting stuff.
Some
I
dishes
just
are
like,
similar to Kerala food, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's more South Indian, takes
Mm.
a bit on that turn, like also with the puttu to in the
Yeah, kadala
their
curry.
appam, everything is very, like, different.
Mm.
Um, So and also like I eat a lot of spicy. I always thought Jaffna food is spicier. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I ate at the wrong places, but I found like when I made food for them, they were like, "Orappu, this is really spicy." So I was like,
Yeah.
"I thought you guys eat spicy. Like, come on." Um, so I just love these people. I really want to go back and spend a lot of time with Jaffna people. There's more videos coming from my Jaffna series. I think I've shared
Mm,
about 7 recipes now. I don't know. I have 4 more to go. I also did a really nice collaboration with a project called Palmera Project.
mm-hmm.
They help women below the poverty line to, be empowered, be self, how do you say it? Like to be independent
Mm,
financially. It's just
mm,
inspiring to go spend time with these people, cook in a little mud hut, listen to war stories, listen to their
mm,
stories. What
mm,
did they have to experience?
mm.
And to listen to them directly without any
A
politician, without
middleman,
any news,
yes.
no middleman, just and I think why I think the connection was stronger because I come from the south, I wear their attire, I speak their language,
Mm.
very different language. My Tamil is horrible compared to Jaffna
Yeah.
Tamil, but
I mean,
I make an effort.
if you are from Colombo, your Tamil is very different to them.
And I make an effort. I am there to listen to their stories, and that's all that matters. I make an
Mm.
effort to sit there and talk to them and respect them and listen to their culture. And that has been the feedback throughout my videos. Like, thank you for showing Jaffna. And it makes me emotional. Like, my God, like, what have we done? Like, why haven't we done this before? Like, why
Yeah.
aren't we like putting more effort into this part of Sri Lanka? Because this is our country too.
Yeah, I think the day Jaffna or the North develops, that's when Sri Lanka really develops, you know. And
Of
these are
course.
our people. They're part of Sri Lanka, and it's sad that this is still happening. I mean, we are shouting on social media for many very not important things, but what about these people who are just completely neglected, from being
Yeah.
one of
And
us?
very
Sad.
poor, like
Mm,
very poor and infrastructure. Like, I think one of my worst experience was the boat to Delft. So
mm,
we went during Mahashivaratri. So it was a
mm,
very busy time. And the boat to Delft is like there's one boat in the morning, and I think they
mm-hmm,
can accommodate 100 people. And it's like a salmon can. Like you put
mm,
stuff people in. Honestly, it's so unsafe because something happens and the boat topples. Nobody's wearing life jacket. I don't think they
mm,
have enough life jacket, and you can't even get out because you're so packed. And we
mm,
had to wait for another boat
mm,
to come, or you had to pay for it. These are like free boats focused for villages and people, but sometimes you have tourists like us. We also want to go, but of course the priority is for locals. um, but it's such a bad experience. I was thinking, like, my God, if someone is having a heart attack and you want to bring them, how are you going to do it? Like,
mm.
how the hell are you going to do it? Like, in that moment, I really felt like our country has really failed certain parts of
Those
this
people.
country.
Yes.
Like in Colombo, this would never happen, right? Like,
Mm,
this is not just Jaffna. I know this happens in rural Sri Lanka.
mm,
But it's just that we just keep making certain areas richer, and the rest, the corrupt, what do you call, the politicians who are corrupt are also ripping these people off instead of actually representing them.
mm.
So that was really horrible experience. Man, I was wondering, like, some of these people have to go to work every day in this boat. How are you doing this? You know?
Mm, mm-hmm. Yeah, sad. So, Shehana, I want to ask you something. If you didn't speak Tamil, let's say in a different scenario, would you have been welcomed just the same way you did? What do you think?
My husband was welcomed the same way.
Mm.
He's white guy
Yeah,
who doesn't
let's
even
say,
speak
yeah,
Sinhala.
I mean, let's say he's taken as a tourist, a foreigner, but let's say a Sri Lankan family goes to Jaffna, they don't speak a word of Tamil. You think they can experience the same?
Well, my guide was really friendly and he could translate. Sometimes I didn't understand the Tamil, so they
Mm,
translated it for me, or they didn't understand my Tamil and we had to translate it.
mm,
I think they will welcome you. I can't say fully, but I think they will welcome you. As long
mm.
as you're a nice person and you're not trying to be an asshole, I think things should be
Yeah,
fine.
it's also in your
I
hands.
noticed like in the beginning, yeah, and I also noticed in the beginning there was a little bit of hesitation in sometimes talking about
Mm,
war and stuff
mm,
because there's still a gap, you know. I was
mm,
also hesitant to ask certain questions. I was
mm,
honestly, I was like, am I going to ask this or not? Am I going to share my perspective or not?
mm,
Because it's a very sensitive subject. So you need to be very careful.
mm,
You don't have to walk on eggshells, but you need to be very respectful.
mm.
So that is something I really noticed. But in general, these people are wonderful people. I think they will welcome anyone with open arms if your intentions are good.
Yeah. On my next trip, I'm really going, and your videos inspired me a little bit, you know. I was already thinking about that, but now I'm so sure that I want to see Jaffna. I want to see the north, you know. Okay, now coming
Great.
back to food. So, Shehana,
Yeah.
let's talk about the business opportunities within the F&B industry in Sri Lanka that our people don't see. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking
Mm.
about the Sri Lankans in Sri Lanka. I feel like there are so many business opportunities, not just the same rice and curry hut or not just the same Chinese restaurant or catering only
Mm.
towards foreigners, you know. We could actually invent many things within this F&B industry. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think what we miss the most, either I see two extremes. Either it's extremely rice and curry, or it's extremely Western food.
Mm.
It's avocado toast, bloody avocado toast everywhere you go. And I'm like, eat your avocado toast in Europe, please. Don't come to Sri Lanka for avocado toast. So these two extremes are a real problem. You need to
Mm.
have authentic Sri Lankan food because that is our cuisine.
Mm.
But I think the future of Sri Lankan food is in between, where we can take authentic Sri Lankan ingredients and twist it a little, give it a Sri
Mm.
Lankan touch, and make something new out of it.
Mm. Mm.
You
Mm.
know?
Mm. Mm.
Are you
Fusion it
there?
a little bit.
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, oh, so I see that as a big opportunity, and we have a massive vegan food culture, but we
Mm.
don't advertise it enough.
Oh
Because
my
Sri
God. Tell,
Lankans, they,
I cannot stress more
yeah,
about this. Being a vegan, I can tell you, our food is, there are many, many recipes originally vegan in our cuisine. And just
of
people want
course,
to throw in dry fish or dry prawns or whatever in it. And I'm like, why? It's not even the original
yeah,
recipe, guys. So,
yeah.
and I think
I
like
think
Sri
they,
Lankans are not seeing the vegan market, the opportunity we will have from this cuisine itself. You know, people will fly down to Sri Lanka if they find out that these delicious food are, most of them are originally vegan. I wish,
exactly. So we have, yeah. I think it's also because I know from like my parents, man, to get them to eat something vegan, forget about it. Like, are you crazy? Like it's like no piece of chicken or fish, like especially fish, because we are from the south of Sri Lanka, so we ate a
mm,
lot of fish and we still eat
seafood.
a lot of fish.
Mm,
Seafood, like it's like impossible. My father would every morning he would go to the fish market. I'm not kidding, huh? Every morning gets fish and makes the same curry every day, and he has to have it.
mm,
So I'm working on a project with Meatless Monday, which will be
mm,
published soon. I've
mm-hmm,
created 10 recipes with high protein vegan ingredients from Sri Lanka. It's one of the
mm-hmm.
most exciting projects I worked on, and it was so
Sounds
exciting to do
exciting.
this be-
Mm,
because I'm not vegan, but I eat less meat. I
mm,
anyway hate chicken in Sri Lanka. I if I try to eat chicken, it will be biological, but impossible to find that here.
mm,
So I tend to eat more fish in Sri Lanka if I get the opportunity, or just try to eat something, vegan or vegetarian. But for my parents, that's like you're poor. This mentality of mas malu nattang, that's like poor. I'm like,
Shehana, can
no.
I cut you? I hear our national anthem and I miss it.
Oh yeah, the national anthem, because it's 5:30 and the national anthem is happening indeed.
Sorry. Yeah, please go on.
Yeah. No. So, but the vegan market is massive, and I think it's just this mentality. I think because we lived in poverty or we were poor, people had this like soya meat is for poor people. Like I still, when I eat soya meat, I remember our poor days because that was when
Mm,
you couldn't afford meat. But I
mm,
love soya meat, how delicious it is, and how much protein in it. Um, People just don't see it. People don't want to put the effort into it. uh, they don't eat masala when they have a commitment to the temple, or
mm,
they're doing something like Hindus and Buddhists. They have that, they don't eat
mm,
meat when it comes to something with the temple.
mm.
But other than that, I think it's a big lost opportunity.
Yes.
We really have amazing vegan food. Like that's why for me, I cooked with a vegan restaurant in the Netherlands. We have hosted 2 nights of vegan Sri Lankan dinner. Super easy to cook because everything can be vegan. Like literally,
Yes.
Sri Lankan food
Yeah.
is vegan. Like my mom also, because she's from the south, every curry will have moldy fish. I don't like. I don't have to put moldy fish to everything because you don't need that taste. But I think it's also easy way to get flavors out in your food, without proper ingredients. So
Mm,
there's a big role. But I think vegan and finding, like the other day I had kesel moor soup with banana
mm,
blossom. A soup
mm-hmm.
was made, and I was thinking, oh my god, this is so delicious. And these are ingredients that you can play a lot with, and these are local
Yes.
ingredients. And I
Yeah.
honestly see a massive market there. So if I one day
Yes.
open a restaurant, it will have authentic Sri Lankan food, but it will definitely have fusion Sri Lankan food with these ingredients to cater to a bigger market, because not everyone wants rice and curry.
Mm, true. Yeah. That's true. In my house, I cook soya meat every single day, believe me or not. And sometimes being a Sri Lankan, I feel like why are we eating the same thing every day? But my boys, my husband's from Italy, and my son never he was never in Sri Lanka. Yeah, so they're like so crazy about this soya meat, and whenever I cook it for my friends, they're like, wow, this is so delicious and the texture is so nice because I make it in different ways. And I feel like our people think soya meat is a poor person's food, you know,
Yeah.
but the amount of protein, and we are so sad when the milk powder price is hiking. Just get it from soy meat or dal, the yellow lentil we have, and the way we cook it is just
Mm.
honestly, I didn't see it anywhere in Europe, dal being so tasty like the Sri Lankan dal we have, you know.
Mm. Sri Lankan
So
dal is unbelievable.
it's next level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow. So
if
you
I
get soya
ask you
meat
to,
where you live?
well, yes, when I was in UAE, they have big Sri Lankan supermarkets, but now in Europe, they have the soya meat, but from India, so only the soy chunks.
Mm.
So yeah, so which is good for me because I usually don't like to use the seasonings we have comes in the packet.
Mm.
So I make it in
Mm.
different ways, sometimes fried, sometimes sauteed, you know, like a curry, soft. And yeah, that's one thing about Sri Lankan cuisine, isn't it? Like we can cook one vegetable in many different ways. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice. So Shehana, if I ask you to maybe list some five opportunities within this F&B industry you see for our youngsters who are thinking to start something but don't have a big capital to invest, you know, do you see any opportunities like that?
Yeah, I think you can start like a food truck, like food
Mm,
tuk-tuk. That is my concept of a food truck. Why do you need a truck? You have tuk-tuks. Hmm?
yeah.
You don't need a truck. I think there are a lot of happening places in Colombo, in the down south, and everywhere. You should
Mm-hmm.
be like, I see that as a fun opportunity with maybe small Sri Lankan bites. Doesn't have to be fried, but snacks. There are like a lot of Sri Lankan items, or a salad bar, like Sri
Mm,
Lankan style salad bar, right?
mm,
Because
mhm,
let's say in the down south, we have a lot of tourists coming and they're always looking for healthy food because these
mm,
are like surfers. They want
mm,
high, like good, nutritious food. So I see like salad bar opportunities, things like that, that is more healthy. And I also think like all Sri Lankan snacks so far has been very unhealthy. Like we have a lot of unhealthy snacks, let's be honest about it.
deep
The
fried.
bread
Mm,
guy, yeah, a
mm,
lot of carbs, like massive amount of carbs. So you can also turn it into healthy.
mm,
You can turn things into gluten free. You can cut down the carbs and focus on high protein snacks, or like, so we don't have that market, and that I find it also as a local who loves to eat healthy food. Like takeouts are always unhealthy unless you take rice and curry,
mm,
because that at least has the vegetable. So I think there's a massive market for healthy, like using Sri Lankan foods for health purposes. So that
mm.
can be one thing. Salads, Sri Lankan snacks, or using Sri Lankan ingredients for fusion food and the vegan food. So I think I've listed now 5. I think
Mm.
those can be 5 big opportunities in Sri Lanka.
And what about the tropical fruits? I notice you've been in Thailand. Don't they have a big fruit cart culture there in Thailand with tropical food?
Yeah. So we do have that more and more. Like we don't have the fruit carts, but fruit shops.
Mm,
Um, it's more like people take it and go home and eat it. I think it's also maybe because
mm,
of hygiene reasons, that they don't want fruit to be cut then and there. Like a lot of foreigners I know, they take the fruits, they buy it, and they go home and eat it instead of
mm,
in little like acharu. We do have acharu in Colombo, that's popular.
mm,
There's pickled fruit, but
mm.
foreigners don't like pickled fruit. Uh,
Yeah, it's our
but I
thing.
think it's our thing, and I also think it has something to do with hygiene, that people don't want pre-cut
Mm.
stuff. They want to get the fruit and go home and cut it and eat it.
Yeah.
Maybe in Thailand it's different.
Yeah, yeah. I'm saying we have to think of twisting it a little bit, like maybe have a cabinet and wear gloves and take the fruits out
Okay.
only when the customer is asking for it. I've seen these videos from Thailand, so maybe our
Yeah, yeah,
youngsters
yeah.
can get some
Of
ideas from that.
course.
Food hygiene is
That's
something in Sri Lanka that overall has to improve a lot, right?
a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. I just
Yes.
sometimes I helped this charity organization, and right next to that is a shop. So I was taking some of the volunteers from the Netherlands to this shop, and the guy wanted to try something, and the man behind the counter goes with his hand like that to take the stuff, and I'm like, can you please put that back, and give him something? Don't touch it. Just use a
Mm,
paper, because I
mm.
saw what he was doing before. He was doing this and that, and I'm like, come on, like, do you want business or not? Like, what's the
Yeah,
deal? So food hygiene is like, not everywhere, but yeah, people need to take
mostly.
it seriously.
Yes, yes, they have to. So, Shay, very beautiful
Yeah.
name. What is the future of Career Clock?
Well, the future of Career Clock, it has different pillars. So one of the pillars is to continuously share the stories of Sri Lanka.
Mm,
I really, really want to put Sri Lanka on the map. My tagline is promoting Sri Lankan food to the world.
please.
I want, so I really want to put that Sri Lankan food on the map in Europe. So that is one of the pillars, the stories of Sri Lanka, how people make food, to all of that. And I
Mm,
also want to, I'm already an importer in the Netherlands, so I'm importing Sri Lankan ingredients that are not known by the rest of the world. We have maple syrup, we have agave syrup, but we
but
also
not
have kithul
Kitul.
trickle.
Mm,
So let's put kithul on the map, and we have amazing gluten-free flours in Sri Lanka. I'm
mm,
focusing a lot on that because a lot of people are struggling with gluten issues.
mm.
So I want to put that a focus. So those are 2 things
Can
that's
you
actually
name some of
happening.
them, Shihana, for us, please? Some gluten
Uh,
free flours you can find in Sri Lanka.
um, cassava flour, that is manioc,
Manioc, yes.
tapioca, tapioca. We
Yeah.
have mung beans, mungata. We have
Mm-hmm.
chickpea, that
Mm.
is kadala.
Mm.
We have kurakang flour.
Yes.
We have cowpea, that is
Mm.
black eyed peas.
Mm.
We have, I don't know, raw banana flour, rice flour, corn flour. This is a list of flour. These are not like nuts, okay? This is not almond powder or something. These are like
Mm.
literally flours I'm talking about.
Full of protein,
Uh,
most of them.
yeah, jackfruit flour, jackfruit seed flour. Jackfruit
Mm.
seed has a lot of protein as well. So we have some really amazing stuff in Sri Lanka. So I want to put
Mm-mm-mm.
the focus on, like, tea we know, cinnamon we know, spices we know, fine, and a lot of people are doing it. But there are so many hidden products from Sri Lanka I want to highlight
Mm.
in the world. So that's
Mm.
my focus.
Mm.
And yeah, Sri Lankan craftsmanship, I think, deserves attention too.
Oh, yes,
So,
totally.
so I'm working on that as well. And I'm planning to do a lot of pop-ups in Europe to promote Sri Lankan food. So yeah, that's a little bit of where I see career clock in towards the end of this year. I just take 1 year at a time. I don't want to plan 5 years ahead. That's too much. We'll see how it goes. I'm going with the flow.
Good. Good luck. Okay, Shahana. Now, I want to take our conversation to a totally different dimension. Yeah. What I saw from your vlogs and what I liked about you is that how proudly you are carrying how you are and what you are, being a Sri Lankan, being a dark-skinned Sri Lankan. Because we have this huge misconception about being dark in Sri Lanka or South Asia or maybe also in the entire
Mm.
world. Yes. Can you take me through your experiences you faced as a child or teenager and after that, and how you started facing it?
Mm. So as a child, I was like really dark, apparently. Well, I think I was dark like this, probably, or darker. And I come from a family of dark. My grandpa was dark, but the rest of the family was quite light skinned. And my
Mm.
biological brother is very Middle Eastern looking, like he looks very white. My
Ooh.
mom is very white. So that was very difficult, especially the son being very white and handsome and, whatever. They used to call me, like, they used to literally say that I was adapted. I was taken from a drain, and that's why I was so dark. So much
Mm.
bullying. As a child, you can't process these things. And I honestly believed it. I thought, well, I act different. I look different. Probably I'm not part of this family.
Mm. For
They
them,
would
it's a
tell me,
joke,
like,
but they don't understand the depth of how it can damage a child, isn't it?
yeah. And also, like, things like I look like a crow or a monkey. And I just really, like, I didn't, like, I was like, whatever, dude, what can I do? It's my skin color. What am I supposed to do?
Mm.
I'm not Michael Jackson. I'm not rich enough to go and do things like that. And even if I
Oh.
was rich enough, I wouldn't do it, right?
Mm.
I
I think
wouldn't.
he had a skin problem though.
He had a skin problem, but he also did some treatments to make it equal, right?
All
I thought,
white,
at
yeah.
least
Mm, mm,
I
mm,
thought
mm.
he did something
Maybe.
like that, but I don't know. But the thing is, I'm not Pubi Hansamali. Let's put it like that. She's one of the Sri Lankan women promoting whitening products,
Yeah,
um,
famously.
famously. So, and I would love, like, I love to go and lay on the sun. Like, I used to go to the slab and just lay, and I just would take all the sun in. And my grandma would say, like, aren't you dark enough? Like, why do you have to get further dark? And I was like, kids play outside. And yeah, I think it really started to bother me when there was so much, when they discriminated me against my brother. um,
Mm.
and I really hated that. And like, my father is married twice, and they would say things like, yeah, you're so dark, your father has been married twice, who's gonna marry you? And then it really started getting into me, like,
Mm.
maybe I am actually ugly, maybe I'm not pretty. And my friends were all light skinned, and they all came from good families. I had so much issues, like, it was just getting too much. But I think when I started working, but there was always this. You're very dark, but you like my family would never say that, but my friends would be like, "You're dark, but you're pretty, like you're dakum kalu, yeah."
But
And I was like, yeah. So I was like, why? Like, what? Like as a child, I thought it was a compliment that dakum kalu was like, you're dark, but you're dakum kalu. I was like, oh, I'm dakum kalu, so I feel good about me being dark, you know. Maybe that also helped to carry this confidence. But I think when I got older, I really saw, like, especially when I went to Europe, I saw how people were like appreciating my skin color, that I could wear anything, that I always looked healthy. Like people would say in the Netherlands, like, did you go on holiday? Like, whoa, you have a beautiful tan. And people go on holiday to look healthy because in Europe, if if you got a tan, that means you were rich enough to go on a holiday. And in Asia, if you had a tan, that means you're poor because you had to work outside in the field. This is two extremes, yeah. So so for me, when I think Europe really helped me embrace my color. But before that, I was also very proud, always like proud of my skin color. I never tried to be lighter. I never did anything. I swear to God, I've never used any Fair and Lovely nonsense. I always found it ridiculous. I think because I was discriminated so much for being dark, I had this fear, this fiercely, like I had this anger, like I'm gonna be so proud of my color. It didn't put me down, it strengthened me.
wow.
Even like when I was working, I met a famous DJ from Sri Lanka one day at the elevator. He was saying to me, I never date dark girls, like, but you're so pretty for a dark girl. Maybe we can go. I was like, dude, screw you. You really think this opening line is gonna work on me? For a dark girl, you're so pretty.
The
So
audacity. Yeah. Yeah, that's
it's
in
like,
our
no.
language, isn't it? Sudui lasanai. It's like it comes together somehow, and I hate it that
Yeah.
how they
Yeah.
connect being white skinned with beauty. It's not that. It's not
It,
that
it,
way.
no, it's not. And that's also something that I find it really difficult bringing my husband here because he's so white. I've always said to him about the real issues in Sri Lanka when it comes to these things. And I've said, don't get cocky. Don't get, don't get excited that this is happening. This is messed up. This is not okay. And of course he knows that. But I always I feel like it's my responsibility to keep him grounded or something, like, don't get too cocky because you're white, like, hello. But I think, and I saw my influence on younger people being brown, that they saw like me embracing it. I saw like I got a lot of messages because I make a lot of videos about this thing, saying that they appreciate it, that they, I'm not white, but I do have whatever 1,000 followers purely based on who I am. But some people think to be successful in Sri Lanka, you need to be white. To get collaborations, you need to be white because dark people don't get it. Of course, some brands don't want to work with me. A brand, like a well-known Sri Lankan brand, refused to work with me. They didn't want me to model for them because I'm brown skin. And I was like, okay, sure, I won't work with you. It's not my loss, it's your loss. You don't represent real Sri Lanka. So I always I'm very proud because we live underneath the sun. How can we be white? Like I am very white-ish when I'm in Europe in winter because there's no sunlight. But I hate that color. I look like I'm dead. Like I feel like, oh my
Pale
God, what's wrong with me?
embam karla
Yeah.
wage dese.
Yeah. So embalm karla wage, that feeling. Even now, some people haven't seen me in 2 weeks. So I went kayaking. So it's a lot of sun, right? I surf. It's a lot of sun. And someone said, Miss Podak venos vela. I said, kalu vela kiyala kiyanna bayayද ඔයාට? I said, I'm scared of saying I'm kalu vela. Oh, Miss kalu vela tamai. I'm like, yeah, I've been surfing. And I said, I'm really proud. But ඒ වුණාට ලස්සනයි, yeah, Miss? I'm like, thank you. ඒ වුණාට I don't need.
But
Yeah, so you know what? As long as we keep speaking, as long as we represent our skin culture, skin color, boycott people who promote whitening products, I
Mm.
think we're on the right path. I think the younger generation is so proud, man. You should see how they wear clothing. How they're so comfortable with showing their tummy. When we were little,
Mm.
we would, oh my God, we're so scared because it's not okay. I'm so proud of the Sri Lankan younger generation.
But this is
They're like
mainly
fearless.
in the city areas, isn't it? Either Kandy, Galle city, or in Colombo. But I think this should
It,
reach all over Sri Lanka. And the other thing is,
yeah,
if these young people see how these whitening creams are made, I don't think they will ever touch it.
no, I think
It's
that
so
is where we need to
unhealthy.
show them. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mostly this whitening issue is in the villages. Honestly,
Mm,
it's not in
mm,
Colombo people. It's mostly the village girls who doesn't
mm,
want to go out in the sun. You also see in my comments, it's mostly you can sense it.
mm,
But man, someone told me like Sri Lankan boys, like Colombo boys, don't want dark girls, and because of
mm,
that, girls also feel so like less confident. I think the
mm,
moment as women we are empowered to do our own thing,
mm,
if they don't like it, they don't have a choice. They only have brown skin girls deal with
mm,
it,
mm, mm,
why should we change our skin color for boys? But the Sri Lankans are so old school thinking in that way. Just because I have to have a good husband, I need to
mm,
be light skinned. If not, I won't be able to marry someone.
mm.
Um, and that's what you see in papers, newspapers, when they put marriage proposal,
Yeah.
Sudu, Usa.
Mm, mm.
You need to invent
Lasana.
some women.
Sudu usa lasana
Lasana,
comes together.
highly educated,
Mm.
mar qualification. They ask for serious qualifications, and I'm like, yeah, you need to invent people like this. Like, you're not gonna find that.
Mold. By
So
the way, I have seen this firsthand. My cousins or within the family, um, even if the guy is dark or, I mean, dark is not a problem, but you know, they want a white sudu usa lasana girl kenik. Because this guy is wealthy, well off, you will get married. So why is it like that? Why not, if the woman is very dark and she's so educated or whatever, can find a, according to their ratio, like the whitest
yeah,
guy. It doesn't work this way, you know. It's also very sexist in this way.
I think our generation have a big responsibility to change this.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
also why when I get nasty comments, I share it. And a lot of people tell me, oh, you shouldn't be bothered. I'm not bothered. I want to educate the younger generation. This is what happens on a daily basis. Like, I remember putting a video of me jumping into a pool, but you could see from me from the backside, and the comments about how dark I was, or my ass, and I was like, why are you using the word dark? Why can't you say something else? Like, why does it have to be like kalui katai? And like, I just don't get it. And I think you need to be very self-confident and not let people take you down. And that is very hard if you don't think you're pretty, if you're not self-confident, every
Mm,
comment will upset you. And getting there takes time. And that's where people like me can help them being confident, showing them it's not ugly. It's not ugly at all. If at all,
yeah,
maybe it's more beautiful because, like, look at whole Europe trying to be white, sorry, trying to be
dark.
brown.
Yeah.
So it's healthy. It's good.
Mm,
It's good to
mm,
be
mm, mm,
sun-kissed.
mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. Yeah. I want to say, even if it bothers you, it should bother you because it's wrong. It is totally wrong, and you cannot make it right by just, I don't know. You know, I want to add something. We are blessed with sunlight all year around, yes. And we have this, the gift of nature, melanin, you know, which protects us from many harmful things from the sun. So, our young people, if they can understand that the global warming is getting worse than it ever was, and we have to prepare, and this is the weapon, guys. The nature has given us this melanin. Why are you looking down on it? You know, it's just, I
You're
think we need to
absolutely spot
educate people
on.
on this.
Yeah, like if I look at how on the kayak trip, I do put sun protection because we do have melanin, but sun can
Mm-mm-mm.
also be harmful. So I always put sun protection if I'm sitting outside the whole day. And even with that, how my husband can burn and actually his skin can peel off is insane compared to how
Yeah.
my skin can be very healthy. This is just pure example of how blessed we are with our skin.
Mm.
And it will take time, but I'm pretty sure as long as we keep talking about these issues and keep boycotting these brands and horrible businesses who put only white people to promote their brands,
Yeah.
I think we can change. I think we can change this country, but it will take time.
Yeah, because it's very rooted within our culture, isn't it? Also
It
India
is.
or
It
South
is.
Asia, you see movies, the actresses is white, even the guy is old and bold and what's not. The girl has to be white and
Exactly.
pretty. In movies, in
It's horrible.
advertisements, in dramas, everywhere. You see what you. My husband used to tell me when we were the beginning of our marriage, like, why do I see in Indian movies the girl is always pretty and the guy is average, let's say. I said, "Well, I don't know." And he says, where are these very light skinned Indian people? I don't, because we used to live in Dubai. I don't see
Oh yeah,
Indians so white. I'm like, well, they're picked for the movie, for the show business, let's say. Same in our
they've
country,
handpicked
which is
them.
very sad. Yes.
It is very sad. It is very
But on the
sad.
other
But
hand, if a Sri Lankan, a dark Sri Lankan, will walk on the what do you say, the Vogue or something, some guy, some young guy from
hmm,
Sri Lanka, he became famous.
hmm.
Then we are so proud of being Sri Lankan, so proud of Sri Lanka. But would you hire him in a modeling agency in Sri Lanka? Nope, like you said.
No, no, that's the thing. It's such a hypocrisy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even the recently Miss Universe, I think Miss Universe runner up or Mrs. Universe, one of those things. She was Sri Lankan, and the
Mm-hmm.
comment sections, oh, lasana kalu kellek. I was like, some of the comments were like ridiculous. Like, I was like, oh my God, you guys, if someone is bringing something to Sri Lanka, you will shift side. Or if she was white, you'll be like, "Dakane, the lasana sudu kellek tamai dinne." So
Mm. Mm.
yeah, it's just deep rooted and it's such a bad mentality. Um, but I really hope one day we will change things around. I mean, I'm really proud to be Sri Lankan and be a brown Sri Lankan. I think this
Mm.
is how Sri Lankans look in ancient pictures.
Exactly.
Look back. So
Exactly.
it's the definition of Sri Lankan. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, people who say things to dark Sri Lankans, and then they say, Oyala, they are not mixed at least. I mean, I don't know how to put it, but historically,
yeah,
guys, the real Sri Lankans are dark skinned. If you are bright, which means that your forefathers came from somewhere. This is all I have to say.
yeah, yeah, exactly. There you're. Are you like? No, I don't want to say that. You're not a real Sri Lankan then, no. We are Sri
No.
Lankans are all we are all different colors and shapes and
Mm,
sizes, and I think that is what makes Sri Lanka beautiful. As
mm,
long as we all see that, then I think Sri Lanka is a beautiful place. But we don't see it. We
yeah.
constantly think Sri Lanka should look certain way,
Mm,
and
mm, mm.
we keep thinking that way. It's very narrow-minded thinking. But Sri Lankans come in all different colors, shapes, eyes, like
Yes, yes.
everything.
Being an island, I know we are influenced by many things, the food, the culture, the music, the art, and the skin color too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So it was very lovely speaking to you, Shehana, and I wish all the best with the Curry O'Clock and every other projects in life. And I wish that you would move to Sri Lanka because people like you are important for our country.
Yeah.
So,
I have this plan. I have this plan. So hopefully, may at least I want to try to be in Sri Lanka more. And then I will be back in October anyway, again for a few months. So my plan is to be in both worlds because my husband's from there, so I have to accommodate him. I am from here. So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thanks, girl.
Thank you for
And
having me.
no problem. It was a pleasure. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.